Hey everyone, it's James from Tin Robot Games. And man, what a whirlwind! We just finished our campaign for Garden Geckos, Dewdrops, and Koi Ponds. It's all wrapped up. We funded quite high actually. I was quite happy with where we landed. I think we ended up with, I put this in Canadian dollars, it's the only way I can see it, but $31,000 on a goal of $10,000. Very, very excited. This video is the post game that I always do. So after I'm done every campaign, I always do a post game and just kind of lay it all out there. And people know that I'm quite transparent, so I just put it all out there. And if you're working on a campaign yourself, hopefully there's something in here that you might find useful. For me, it just gives me, quite frankly, something that I can refer back to before my next campaign to remind myself of a lot of the learnings I've had. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to go through them. So let's start off at the top. So on this particular campaign, we were number one on Kick Tracks almost for the entire campaign. We achieved Project We Love status through Kickstarter. That's like coveted, I guess, kind of like the golden child that you're chosen, where you show up on the For You page. There's a certain section too in the discovery area of Kickstarter where they'll serve up all of the Project We Love status campaigns. It's so strange. It's never based on amount of funding or anything like that. You fill out a form when you're ready to start your campaign. I usually recommend to do this at least 2 weeks ahead of time because they always review these on Thursdays. Hopefully you get chosen, and they'll never tell you why you got chosen or not. They just review your campaign and they'll decide whether it's a Project You Love status. I find animal themed and nature themed games seem to be heavier weighted towards getting that designation versus space. Anything I've ever submitted that's space focused, never get it. But Garden Gecko's first time around, I got Project You Love status and got it on this as well. I think I may have actually had it on Nutty Squirrels as well. But it's kind of, you put it out there, and if they like what you have to say, then you can get chosen. And there's projects out there that get Project We Love status that never even end up funding. So it's not even like they choose it based on something they guarantee to fund. It seems so random, and it really does seem like they choose it based on just what they like as a committee. And so it was very, very exciting to get that. That gives you a boost, right? So when I look at projects that are considered like kind of, I was trying to find the percentage of my pledges that came from this. It's tough to narrow it down. Kickstarter represented roughly 45% of the pledges that came in were just from the Kickstarter platform. Kickstarter serving it up to people and people pledging. Now, obviously you have in there, someone sees your ad and then they go on to Kickstarter and they just type into their account and find your project that way. Or they're reminded later on after they've seen your ad and they see it on the For You page and they click on it. But in general, the math seems to be for, and crowdfunding nerds have said this on their podcast as well, for every 6 pledges you bring in, Kickstarter will serve up another 4, is roughly the math. So as you're working through the math of how your campaign is going to fund, projecting out kind of where you think you're going to land, that's the math you always have to focus on. Is like, okay, I've got to cobble together whatever pledges I can for my marketing and so forth. And I take that number and divide it by 6, multiply by 10. And that's kind of the math to get to where you should land at the end of your campaign. Our day one, I think we hit like 11,083. I'm sorry, I don't have the number here in front of me, but it was around 11,000 something that we got on our first day. What I've seen now in each of these campaigns I've run is the math is fairly consistent, and it seems to be about 2.5 times what your day one funding is pretty much where you're going to end up. Now, for those who are just doing the math, obviously that doesn't equal 31,000 where we landed, 31,000 and a bit. But it's pretty darn close. I think it comes out to, 11, whatever. I took my day one, multiplied by 2.5, and I think it came to like 28,600 or something like that. So I knew on day one that I was going to fund much higher than I expected. I had gone into this campaign thinking it was probably going to be in around 22,000. That's where the math was kind of pointing. And I was very happy to see that it actually did much higher than I had expected. And I think there's a number of things that I did differently this time that I'm going to go through that I think helped towards that. Certainly the Project You Love status, I usually attribute like a 10% bump on that. I haven't got the exact number yet. I'm still going through the data to see if I can kind of pull that out. But I think that you can probably count on about a 10% bump if you can get that project you love status. So based on my day one, that would have put me around like the 28,000. So the fact I hit 31,000, I think that project you love status probably put me over that little bit more. For this campaign, it was in Canadian dollars. This is a learning I had. So there's different services out there that allow you to run your campaign in US dollars. So they basically sign on as kind of a collaborator on your campaign, and it runs through their banking. That allows you to do it in US dollars. Every survey I ever do when Kickstarter sends to me saying, hey, as a creator, what do you think? What are some ideas? It's always the same. Guys, put it in US dollars. Like, give everyone the opportunity to collect in US dollars. It is an absolute mess having to collect in Canadian dollars, switch it back over into US dollars then to pay all your expenses. You're losing the exchange kind of on kind of twice. You exchange twice every time you need to pay for these costs on these campaigns. So it really would be better having US dollars. I'm aiming to do that going forward. I was going to do that on this campaign, but what I found out was I created my entire campaign page. Everything. Like, weeks I spent on this. And it turned out, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And it's unfortunately, what I didn't realize is once you initially pick where you're based out of, like, it's literally the first thing you pick when you're setting up your campaign, that sets your dollar. And so even if I wanted to change back to US dollars, I couldn't. I was locked in on Canadian dollars, which kind of sucks. That puts me in a position where then the pledge manager's in US dollars. Full disclosure, that's on our campaign page. So we will collect our shipping costs in US dollars. That's important because I have to pay in US dollars when I do that. So it only makes sense to collect in US dollars, leave it in US dollars, and then pay it in US dollars for the shipping costs. But I think going forward, there are services out there, and usually they charge like a couple percentage points to collect in US dollars for you. My belief in the savings on the exchange, as well as maybe some people just pledging because it's in US dollars, not being confused by that being a higher number in Canadian dollars, I think you're more than make up that 2% anyway. So going forward, US dollars is our plan. In this campaign, this is a good learning. Actually, I used GelUp was the marketing company I used this time. The kicker with, and I've used them all. So full disclosure, those who follow me know, like I've used everyone. I've used all the pledge managers. I've used all the marketing companies. I'm familiar with the ones I haven't used. I'm still familiar with them. Shipping, I've used tons of shipping companies and so forth. So I know what's kind of been working and what hasn't. I've used BackerKit on prior launches, and for my last launch, I switched over to GelUp halfway through, and then this campaign, I chose to go with GelUp from the beginning. The kicker is if you're using BackerKit marketing, and if they approve you, you have to apply and get them to approve you. They will put their dollars in and then take that out of the campaign funds at the end. So you're not having to put the cash flow for it. You're not having to bankroll it up front. Now, granted, they'll only go with people they think that they're pretty guaranteed, that they're certain to get their money back out. So they're going to go after campaigns they're pretty certain are going to fund. GelUp, on the other hand, they do all the same kind of services. I really liked how they did the ads, and I like the transparency behind the things I saw with GelUp. So I do prefer GelUp. The downside is it's on your own. You're putting your own credit card on, so all those ads being paid is on your credit card. You pay their fees at the end of your campaign, but the meta ads is coming out of your bank account up front, and that's a tougher pill to swallow for a lot of people. So I can see benefits of going both. They're both great companies. My preference with GelUp and my experience this time through, what I really liked is you have instant access to all the survey results, instant access to the ads that they're running, so you can actually see the different iterations. I think they went far beyond what BackerKit had done in the types of ads. Like, these guys are running video ads, they're running on the different platforms. It was quite robust, and I was pretty happy with that. We did have a little discussion up front where they were going based on their tools and kind of their audiences they're seeing. And I had to say, hey guys, are you using a like a lookalike audience. So like Meta gives you an option to create what are called lookalike audiences, where you can take your current audience. So if you got like an email list like I have, and most people who have done a couple campaigns have an email list, you can feed that into Meta. This is Facebook we're talking about here, into Meta. And what they'll do is they'll, based on the profiles of all those emails you put in, because they have linking them to Facebook accounts, they can create a profile, and they know the kind of people that would most likely you want to target based on that audience. So you put in like, say, 5,000 emails, and what Meta will do is it will create like a 5 million person audience to hyper target based on that, to have very similar likes and behaviors and so forth that you had with that audience you put in. So it's very important that each time you go through this and your email gets larger and larger, you feed that back into Meta and create a lookalike audience. It's very important that you just don't put your entire audience in there. So for instance, Tin Robot Games, we've got a lot of, I would say, kind of more gateway type games, casual games, fun, cute, hamsters versus hippos, nutty squirrels, the Oakwood Forest, bunny drops, garden geckos. And then we've got the Cities of Venus universe, which is all science-based and a little bit chunkier of a type of a game. Those two audiences, there is some crossover, but they don't entirely cross over. So the risk is if I create a lookalike audience putting the Cities of Venus emails in there, it might be targeting the wrong people for a campaign like this. So that's one thing you want to look out for, is that make sure you segregate your audience and create those lookalikes based on similar type of games that you've launched in the past. So we got that over to GelOp. GelOp then was able to retool their pre-marketing targeting, and were able to get the cost of acquisition down. Overall, what I'm seeing is acquisition costs have gone up. So if I go back like 3 years ago, it was like $3.50 to $4 per lead when I'd run like a lead generation campaign through Meta. And that's where you basically have ads, and the ads then say, sign up now to be on the list, or sign up now to be notified when we launch. Put your email in here, and then that email gets saved and then comes to me in the form of a list. That lead gen cost used to be like, $3, $4, $5. It was like $11 going to this campaign. I don't know if that's because this is a reprint or what, but it was not good. And then when I was running some of my own ads, they were in around like $8 to $9 a lead. Very, very expensive. So we capped the pre-marketing off sooner than we normally would have, just because that's bonkers, those kind of costs for leads. That's leads. That's not even guaranteed those people are going to back. That just gives you an email that you can reach out to saying, hey, now we're live on Kickstarter, please back us. Usually it's only 1 out of every 10 that even back from that list, right? So start doing the math. It's very, very costly. So part of my concern going this campaign is usually I want to be at 1,000 signups, like notify me's on Kickstarter before I launch. I was in, I think, around might have been at 600. I was nowhere near the 1,000. So I was a little concerned going in. That's why my math going in said that this was probably going to be around 22,000. What I didn't account for was some of the things that we did differently this thing. So again, I think GelOp did a great job in terms of the marketing. The email list I have now is much larger, doing subsequent campaigns, lead generation campaigns, where I have quite a large list now. And there is something to be said that the larger you can make that list, the more inherent pledges you can generate without doing additional marketing. You can get from your own internal list. So let me throw some numbers at you. And I'll talk about Backer Kit launch in a second. So I went after, obviously, people who had backed Garden Geckos. So this is the game we're talking about here. Woohoo! This is the game we're talking about here. People who had backed this game on the first campaign. I went into that Kickstarter campaign and did an update saying, hey, by the way, we're launching an expansion to this game. If you click here, it'll take you over to our other campaign page. It's very, very important that you cross-link your prior campaigns into your new campaigns by doing updates. Survivors, I did this on the Garden Geckos. So I had 5.4% of my total pledges came from that Garden Gecko link. Right, so I can tag that link and see people that clicked that link and went in and pledged on the new campaign. That represented 5.4%. That's big. The Survivors of Venus campaign, although there is they're kind of different genres, it's a Venn diagram. There is some interaction. And in that interaction, it was 2.2% of the people in that update clicked on that link and went over it and pledged. As I said earlier, Kickstarter was represented about 45% of the new traffic coming in. So again, for every 6 pledges you create, Kickstarter is going to serve up 4 more for you. GelUp represented the marketing ads. About 34% of our campaign pledges came from GelUp. Very, very important to have marketing during your campaign. And then I used my own eBlast. So just through my own, and I use Brevo is the account I use. I know a lot of people use MailChimp. I was talking to some colleagues earlier this week and I said, hey guys, I do some marketing here in Canada just as my day job. And I've moved clients over to Brevo. It is way cheaper. It doesn't hockey stick up like MailChimp. So MailChimp, Klaviyo, all these different mail services, their costs ramp up. It's almost like you get punished the more emails you put in. So they start off cheap, but get really expensive as you get into large email lists. Not only that, they charge you mainly based on the size of the list, whereas Brevo charges you based on the amount of emails you send. Right? So those are 2 distinct different things. If you have a large list, but you're not using it, you shouldn't be paying large fees just to have the list, right? And that's what these other guys do. So Brevo.com, BREVO.com is who I use. I think they're great. You can also do text blasting through there. So I've been collecting phone numbers as well as part of my lead generation ads. I'll put in there, hey, do you want to put it's not mandatory, but do you want to put your phone number in as well? So I have a list of numbers as well. So I text blast out as well. So between text blasting and e-blasting, 4.6% of my pledges came in from people clicking on the links from those two services. So very, very important that you build up your list. It is critical. That is paramount. If you're not building an email list, it's better just to get someone else to launch your game for you and just be a designer, because that list is your lifeblood. So let me talk about BackerKit launch. Although I didn't use BackerKit marketing, I've got, again, mad respect for the tools that BackerKit has. And they have a service which is called BackerKit Launch. It acts like MailChimp. It's like a MailChimp type service within their system. You don't have to sign up for the pledge. You don't have to use the pledge manager. You don't have to use their marketing if you just want to use Launch. You can use Launch on its own, and that's what I do. So I'm using a combination of different tools. BackerKit Launch costs $100 per campaign, which is really negligible. What that allows you to do is they will automatically import your prior Kickstarter campaign backers into the list. You can upload your own leads. So every time I do lead generation, I upload them into there as well. And then you can do updates through BackerKit Launch. So use it like an eBlast software. So what a lot of people don't realize is when you run any kind of an eBlast, so let's say you're using MailChimp or using Brevo or Klaviyo or one of these services, there's always a certain percentage of people that are going to unsubscribe. Always. Right? No matter what you do, there's always unsubscribes every single time you send an eBlast out. So number one, I try to do them sparingly and try to make sure that I'm saying something so that I minimize the unsubscribes. People are going to unsubscribe even more as a percentage from someone like Tin Robot Games or bobsgames.com. There's going to be a higher unsubscribe rate there than there is from BackerKit. Somebody unsubscribing from an eBlast coming from BackerKit, although they can still unsubscribe from your campaign, but they're less likely because there's this worry that, oh, wait a second, I back a lot of games. If I unsubscribe, that's going to unsubscribe me maybe from all my communications with BackerKit. So what I find is that I use the two of them together. So I'll use BackerKit Launch. I'll do an update. Hey, we're launching in a week. We're launching in 48 hours. We're launching 24 hours. We've just launched. Then every Tuesday, which is the peak day, so people have been conditioned in this industry that all the launches happen on Tuesdays. That's when we see the largest spike. And that's when you want to do an update. So every Tuesday, regimented, I'll do an update. And then if I find there's something I want to say, or if I think I need to give a little nudge, I'll do a Friday as well. Any more than that is too spammy, and you're going to have diminishing returns. So once a week, twice tops. Then under Tin Robot Games, through my personal eBlast software, I'll just do, hey, we just launched. I could really use your support as a follower of our company. I'll do that at the end of my campaign as well. And then maybe on Fridays, I'll do an update. So I use that one more sparingly than I use BackerKit Launch, because there's a less chance that there's going to be unsubscribes through BackerKit Launch. Okay, so that's why I do that. So that's the one tool I do as part of that. The importance of building up that pre-notification list. To give you an example, there is project just launched. 4% of my pledges came in from people being notified by Kickstarter that my campaign just launched, clicking on it and pledging. 4%. So when you're doing your math on, how important is the notify me button have on the campaign, it is critical. And this is why every time I would do like a lead generation, I say, hey, now that you've have signed up to be notified when we do can you do me one step further? Can you click on this link to our pre-launch page on Kickstarter and click notify me there as well? It really helps us understand kind of people's interest in the campaign and so forth. The reason I'm doing that is because I know 4% of those people are going to pledge. So it's very, very important that you get your notify me numbers up in addition to getting your actual personal email list up. So again, we're coming at this from many different angles. Okay. The tools that Kickstarter has now, they've upped their game. Kudos to them, man. They're doing bravo. I used to be frustrated with their dashboard. Their dashboard is awesome. Setting up the campaign is really clean now. They allow you to do what are called secret pledges. So my problem I had in the past was, and then having like kind of limited time pledges that then disappear. So in the past, what would happen is if you do a pledge that all of a sudden became unavailable, it would still show, and people kind of feel bad they missed out. Well, I missed out on that day one incentive because I can still see it's still there, but I can't click on it. So now in Kickstarter, you can set up kind of your, I want these pledges to run from this time to this time, and then they're going to disappear and you're going to be replaced with this pledge. And then there's also secret pledges. So I use both of these. So first of all, let me talk about secret pledges. What secret pledges are is if you want to, for instance, say you had like I use it locally. So I've got a lot of colleagues in the local area that have backed me on prior campaigns, friends, family, people in this area where I live, where because I have this set at $20 US, shipping included, there's no way to pull the shipping out for the people who are getting it dropped off locally, right? So what I was able to do is create a pledge that was this without the shipping cost built in. So it was much, much cheaper for them. It was almost half the cost. And we could do local pickup. But I didn't want to have to program that into the page because it caused like a lot of confusion. So I created a secret pledge that with the link, they could see that pledge. They're able to link it. Then they'll get me going. I'll hand deliver this to them. They can get it that way. But it doesn't congest the Kickstarter page and it's only visible to them. So you can have secret pledges that way. You could have secret pledges that we're going to be doing this on Cities of Venus. In the Cities of Venus universe, we have a VIP program. So we've got people that are part of our VIP program. It costs $1 to join. It's negligible, but what that gives them access to is it lets them provide input on the direction we're going in terms of the Cities of Venus universe. We've already been tapping them on the Facebook page and so forth to get their opinion on some of the artwork direction we're going and so forth. And then there's usually something special we're going to throw in during the campaign. But again, you don't want to have a feel bad moment where other people are like, well, wait a second, how come I'm not getting X, Y, Z? So you can create a secret pledge to say, hey, to the VIPs, hey guys, as a thank you for all your input and all your help in building this universe up to this campaign we're launching, we're giving you this thing and we're going to build into a secret pledge. So here's your secret pledge link. Retailer pledges, if you want to do retailer pledges, you can do the same thing. If you don't want to show retailer pledges on your page, and you just want to be very specific who gets a retailer pledge in your network, that's another area where you'd use like a secret pledge. The other function is the time-based one is what I call the day one pledges. I like to do an incentive for people that pledge on day one. There's two reasons for this. So, and by day one, it's the first, I always make it the first 72 hours, but I call it day one pledge. And there's two reasons you want to do this. One is because it is very, very predictive that whatever you get on literally the first 24 hours of your campaign, 2.5 times that is generally how the campaign is going to finish. So you want that number to be as big as you possibly can. You don't want people sitting on the fence and say, well, I'll pledge later on, or, I'll get it in the pledge manager. You need something to hook them so that they're pledging on day one. I need you to help me make this the biggest number I can so that the rest of the campaign is going to go really, really well, and I can do other cool stuff maybe that I can add into this campaign along the way. So what we did was we offered the Garden Gecko pin. So that's this guy right here. And it's a magnetic pin. So it can, as a magnet goes on your shirt, magnet can also sit on the bottom and act as, you can put this even on display on a shelf. Okay. You don't have a feel bad to say some people can get this and other people can't. So we made this that you can purchase it, and it's like $5 US. But if somebody backed on the first day, they got this for free. So we had pledges that showed day one pledge. If somebody bought, and you have to be a base game. If they just did the expansion, we already included free shipping on this. If I gave this away for free and free shipping on this, I would literally be losing money because these are coming straight from China to the backers. So I couldn't do it for that. But anybody that did like a base game, they could get this free as a day one pledge. Secondly, what you want is it's called stickiness. You need to make your pledges sticky. I refer to it when I talk to friends in this industry who are, when we kind of talk back and forth on the whole Kickstarter process, I refer to it as the leaky bucket. The first 72 hours of your campaign, you're filling that bucket up with as much water as you can. Now imagine there's a million holes poked in that bucket and the water's pouring out, and you got to try to plug as many of those holes as you can until you get to the last 72 hours of your campaign. It's like a half pipe, right? It's a reverse bell curve. First 72 hours is going to be majority of your pledges. Last 72 hours, you're going to do roughly 50% of what you did on day one. On day two, will be what you do on the last 72 hours. And everything else in between is just hanging on for dear life and keeping the coaster on the track, so to speak. So one way to make those pledges sticky is to offer an incentive, a day one incentive, that if they drop their pledge, they lose it. And what I used to say was, well, if you pledge on day one and, any level, and then as long as in the pledge manager, you still do a full pledge, we'll give you the day one incentive still. We didn't do that this time because I found last time I had a lot of people say, oh, well, I'll pledge $1. I'll decide later on at the end of the campaign whether I want to stay in or not. I'll wait until the pledge manager will decide then, okay, now I'm in and I want my day one incentive. I need to make it as sticky as possible so that you stay in on day one to get that number as high as possible, and then I can hold you through the campaign. So that's why we do the day one incentive. Some people don't like that. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. It's the way it is. So you're going to have people leave. On the leaving, this is something else, a piece of advice I always provide to other people that are getting into this industry and doing a campaign themselves, is the importance of reaching out to people who drop their pledge as soon as you can. The first 72 hours, you're going to spend a couple hours on the computer just reaching out to people consistently because there's going to be a lot of people that come in and jump out right away. But it gets more manageable throughout the campaign. But what I've been able to see in the past is you can, just by asking, because most people assume that we're these big multinational corporations. It's not, hey, this is James, who's a company of one, right? In his basement trying to live his dream of making board games. They assume you're a large corporation. And sometimes they may say, oh, I've backed too many games this month. I'm gonna drop that pledge. They don't need me. Just the pure act of asking, saying, hey, I really need your support. I was hoping, you would help me get across the finish line. is there anything I can do to get you back in? Just by the mere fact of asking within the Kickstarter platform messaging service, you're going to get, I've had up to 15% on a campaign come back in the past. This particular one, we had 52 cancels. We got 4 back. So 4 of the people came back of the 52 just by asking. So that worked out to be, I think, 8.5%. So it wasn't as bad as it wasn't as good as we were able to recover on in prior campaigns, but we still recovered. Definitely worth the effort. Also, I think it's important to engage people, because you have some people, and I had some people say, you know what, right now it's just this economic situation is really tough. I thought it was going to be okay. I've just lost my job. Things are tight. We're not really sure what's going on. Totally get it. Hey, no problem. Hey, my heart goes out to you and your family. I hope you guys get back on your feet. It's all good. No worries. That's always the response back. But you do have the odd people saying, well, it's kind of sitting on the fence, but you know what? The fact that you actually reach out to me, yeah, it's more of a personal interaction. Yeah, I'm back in. There's enough of those people to make this exercise worthwhile. So I've had people in the past say, well, I don't think you should do that, because what if somebody's, for financial reasons dropping? Well, this is an opportunity for you to empathize with the person and say, like, I understand that things are tough. Hey, no worries. It's all good. Maybe make them feel not as bad that they dropped. Maybe they felt guilty for dropping. Well, now you just relieve their guilt. Let them know that you completely understand. So my perspective, always reach out is very, very important to do that. On this campaign, another big change we did is we did 3 weeks. So on prior campaigns, we've gone for 4 weeks. What I've seen is that because it's a reverse bell curve, after week 1, it's really puttering along until you get to that final week. And for me, this campaign, I knew, again, with my projections being around $22,000, it didn't make sense to go 4 weeks. I think the increased number of pledges would probably be negligible. In fact, it probably would have went to the other side. I probably would have had to spend more marketing just to hang on to the people I had, because it's like a leaky bucket. So for me, 3 weeks was what we did. Not sure if I'm going to do that on the next Days of Venus campaign. I got to decide. I got to really think about this. I'm going to keep going through the math and see what makes sense. But 3 weeks, I think, is a nice, tight campaign, and there's enough energy and excitement to kind of carry through the whole thing. So that's why I did the 3 weeks this time. One of the mistakes, I would say, or not mistake, miscalculations. So you always want to kind of calculate, what's my average pledge going to be? And everything's based on that. When you're working with marketing companies, they're going to say, well, what's your average pledge? Because we're going to work on what the average return on average spend is. So when we spend marketing dollars, what's our return on those marketing dollars? It's going to be based on what you think your average pledge is going to be. I've always been very, very good of predicting that. And quite frankly, I usually under-predict. So my average pledge amount is usually over what I think it's going to be. This time it was way under. So I had said, like, I thought the average pledge would be $70 because we have, like, I'm putting this in Canadian dollars, because we had the lowest pledge was like $28, and this pledge was with this one was $70. And then if you had the all-in kit, I think it was $90. So on average, I thought we're going to be in around $70. The sheer number of people that came in and just got the expansion from the prior campaign averaged that number down. So our average pledge amount was $54.06. That's something I need to be very cognizant of in the future. I don't know if I would have that wide of a spread in my pledges going forward anyways, but it's definitely something I got to pay attention to. And if there's any of you out there doing like a reprint with expansion, mini expansions, things like that, this is something you want to be mindful of. In terms of the actual quick numbers I've been able to pull, again, we just finished our campaign a couple hours ago. Of the people that backed the first campaign, 30% of them came back and got the expansion and backed in this campaign, which I thought was great. So that represents roughly 45% of my pledges, or 45% of my backers of this campaign came from the prior campaign. This was very consistent to what I saw on Survivors of Venus. So Survivors of Venus, for those of you who don't know that campaign, we have this Cities of Venus universe we've created. It's a space-based game around the planet Venus. And each game is a standalone game. Like, so the first one we had was called Lost Contact. The sequel we just had this past year was called Survivors. Completely different game styles. One's polyomino. The other one is more kind of worker placement-ish resource allocation. Completely different games. You can play them separately. You don't have, there's the only thematically they're connected, but you don't need to play one to play the other. But there's still, one's a sequel of the other one, if that makes sense. And the numbers are almost identical in terms of people that had a percentage of that campaign were people from the prior campaign. So this really makes me, it's kind of a shot across the bow, so to speak, in terms of trying to figure out going into the third edition of that, because we're going to be doing Civil War next with Kevin Levy. And it's 100 years in the future and the story continues on. It's a standalone game, and that one's a skirmish. And it has nothing to do with the other two, but thematically they're all linked. I'm really, really putting a lot of thought behind, okay, how do we market that game so that people see it as a standalone game and almost see it as a distinct title. So I think the market on that's probably going to be, well, we've already created the campaign. It's called Civil War on Venus. And then I think the subtext probably further down on the page will be, hey, have you backed our other prior campaigns? This is part of the same cinematic universe. Do you want to be in that same cool gift box so that it matches the other games on your shelf? Here's an upgrade you can get for your pledge. I think that's how we're going to have to tackle that one. Because again, if it's 50%, if chapter 2 is 50% of those backers came from chapter 1, and now Civil War ends up being 50% of that, we're like at a quarter of that original audience. So you're getting diminishing returns. And so that's a big watch out, right? So that's something I got to really be pay attention to when we're going into that. So, but it's interesting to get those numbers. I think that was pretty cool. The marketing going into this, I think was really cool in terms of this we actually pre-made. So the cost to make the mini expansion, when I started working on getting samples for reviewers, there's two things I did there. One is I only reached out to reviewers who I knew already reviewed the first game. And the reason I did that was I knew that they would be able to just either repurpose the original content, so they could take the original content and maybe just do an update and say, hey, by the way, here's a new thing we just added to the game. Check out our original video, or here's our original video game now with the expansion added on. But it'd be easier for them to create content because they'd already create content that they could draw from. And also allowed me, quite frankly, to cherry pick. Well, everybody actually, I didn't have any bad reviews on Garden Geckos, the first game, but I have people that already love the first game that now are going to review the expansion. So hopefully I'm going to get some good content that's positive that I can use as part of my marketing. So to create these samples for them, it was the same price to just make the entire batch, right? The risk there obviously is once we fill all of our campaigns, there's going to be a number of these that are probably going to end up in a trash pile somewhere because I'm not going to be able to utilize them because I had to produce enough to anticipate what it could possibly do versus what it, where we landed. So I'll have to figure out a creative way to kind of utilize what's left over. But it was way cheaper to do that than to make samples, get the reviewers to review it, then go and make the batch. The benefit of that is these things are going to start shipping. Literally, the pledge manager, I'm going to try to get out tomorrow, Friday at the latest. I've already sent an announcement out to everyone saying, please fill out it's very, very important you fill out the pledge manager now because we're going to ship these now. And if you want your game before your expansion before Christmas, you got to fill out the pledge manager. So my intent is like in 2 weeks, straight from China, straight to the backers. It does bring up a little bit of a complication in terms of I have a bunch of inventory that we had made of this box in anticipation of this campaign that I have parked in the States that I got there before the tariffs hit. So the benefit to the backers is they're going to be tariff-free, the backers in the States, to get the Garden Geckos game. The challenge is people don't read updates or they skim updates. So for instance, on Cities of Venus. So we had Cities of Venus Survivors, which is the second chapter. As part of that campaign, people could get a bundle, which came with the first game. In all of our communications, every single communication, we said, if you got the bundle, we're going to ship the first game now. And then like next August, when the second game's ready, we're going to ship it then. All of our updates, every time I send an update, I still get a handful of people saying, hey, what the heck, man? You sent out all the games. I never got my game. So I have to go look up their pledge, and I see they never got the bundle. They only got the second game. They didn't read the update, which clearly said you're only getting the first game. So that's part of the challenge with this is now I'm saying to people, hey, guys, this, because I've parked this in the States, some inventory in the States, and I've parked some inventory in Canada, we're going to ship this now. And it's going to come from, it'll be Quartermaster Logistics in the States. It's going to be coming from me directly. I'm going to ship these in Canada myself. And then this is going to come separately, straight from China. I promise you, I'm going to get probably a dozen or so emails from people after they receive this game saying, what the hell, you didn't sell me, I'm mad, you never sent me the upgrade that I purchased as part of my pledge. So I got to prepare that that's coming. I know it's coming. So that's a bit of a frustration. Not frustration, something I got to navigate. In addition to that, these guys, I have about 100 of these left that I can ship right away, but I need like 350. So I've already placed the order for these as well. So they're being made, and it's going to take a couple weeks, and those are going to go straight to my fulfiller in China. So there's going to be a little bit of kind of working the math on the back end to kind of figure out the logistics of how people get all the components of their game. Those that didn't get the Gecko but got the base game are probably going to get the base game and this right away. Those who are getting the Gecko, and we've run out in the States, they're going to get this and this straight from China, but it's going to be coming probably mid-December by the time they receive it. So there's a lot of moving parts I'm going to have to track. But the good news is this campaign is going to deliver at least, at the latest, 5 months early for some people. But at the best, it's going to be, for some backers are going to get this game 9 months before we committed. How's that? That's awesome. I'm so excited. Oh, that just makes me so happy and filled with joy. So that's going to be awesome. So there's a lot of kind of coordinating we're going to have to do with that. So that was some of the things that I knew going into this, and depending on where we landed was going to kind of change how that math worked. Now, the one thing I do want to bring up is that Kickstarter has also recently launched in their platform. So anybody that ends up launching a campaign, be sure to check in the dashboard. There's now a new feature, and I would show you now, but it disappeared as soon as the campaign closed. It's in beta. But during your campaign, there's like a beta feature says beta analytics, and you click on that, it'll actually now show you which pledges are coming from where, like which countries, by pledge. That is a game changer, because up until this point, it's a black box. And this is where I always say to people, it's so important you fill your pledge manager, because Kickstarter, I have literally your Kickstarter user ID. That's all Kickstarter gives you. And then when your campaign is done and you download your backer list, you have the Kickstarter ID and you have their email address. That's it. So I have some people sometimes will be like, well, I never got my game. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know where you live. You're either like in 100 kilometers away from me, or you're in Vietnam. Like, I have no idea where on the planet you're located, because Kickstarter only gives us your user ID and your email address. That's it. Until you fill out the pledge manager, that's when we get all that information. That's why it's so important to fill that out, even if you have nothing owing. If your campaign has got free shipping and so forth, we still have to collect taxes for Canada. But even if you did the $28 expansion only and you're US based and there's nothing else owing, until you fill out that pledge manager, I have no idea where you're located to get the game to you. So it's so important to get that filled out. But this little thing is a game changer because it'll really allow me to start anticipating, okay, what do I need to have where when this campaign closes? Because like many publishers, and I'm trying to consolidate everything into a Chinese warehouse right now, but I have different inventories in different parts of the world, and it's starting to become very complicated in making sure things can, that you can have a certain area get certain pieces, another area get other pieces based on what's located where. So this leads me into, let me finish up on Gel Up first. Then I'm going to get into to Hive, because this is what's really great about Hive as a pledge manager. So one more thing on Gel Up. One piece of advice they gave, which I thought was brilliant. But you have to set this up at the beginning when you set up your campaign. Pick one item that's going to be the most popular item and set it based on limited quantity. And set that limited quantity at like 30 units. So what we did is the quantity, which was, there's a pledge where you can buy this for $60. You can get this for $28. But if you buy them both together, you get it for $70. So essentially save $10 if you get the combo, right, of the base game and the upgrade and the expansion. So that's the one I was, and you can, and now Kickstarter allows you to make an item featured. So I clicked that as a featured item, so it's the first at the top. And then I also chose limited quantity and set at 30. The reason you do that is because you can keep adding, you can keep increase, you can't bring it down, but you can keep bringing it up. So it's quite clever. So you've got this scarcity feel, right, where someone's deciding, do I pledge now? Well, maybe I'll wait till next week. Once I got into the mid part of my campaign, I had that running at like, each day I would set it to like 6 to 7. So people would go in, and then I wouldn't, until it got down to like 3, then I would add like 3 or 4 more. When people would go in, they see, oh, there's only 4 left. Oof, I better pledge now, because if I wait, I might not be able to get the combo I want. Very, very smart. This is Gel Up. This is in their onboarding materials. Brilliant. I think that really helped, again, with the stickiness and front loading some of these pledges we had as well. So kudos to them on that. Okay, let's talk about Hive. So Hive is the pledge manager that I personally use. I'll put a link in the show notes. So if you're running Kickstarter campaign too, it'll give you a discount code. So you'll actually get an even better rate if you use a discount code. But the great thing about Hive is, so they're based out of Canada, and it's the owner is a Greek owner who immigrated here from Greece, and so he still has part of his team in Greece that helps him with some of the customer service and so forth. But him and his family are based out of Eastern Canada here now. Great guy. Vesuvius Media is his name. So he created this. He's got a company where he does board games, and he's been creating board games. But he's just a really good programmer. So he needed a pledge manager that worked for him as a publisher, because he found some of the other ones out there weren't quite working for them, and quite frankly were getting very expensive. Most of the other ones, use Backer Kid as an example, you have to pay a fee, a percentage of your campaign before you even start. So just use your pledge manager. It's like, okay, X percentage of all of your pledges that you've generated so far, you have to pay that as an initiation fee. Then they charge you based on everything that they put through the platform and they bring in terms of collecting your shipping costs and so forth. It's very expensive. So right there, it's several percentage points you save just by using Hive. The other great thing about Hive is it's forward thinking. So his whole focus is on, how do I make this work through the eyes of a publisher? And so as a publisher, and I'm doing it right now, I just finished doing my second. So I did it with Cities of Venus Survivors. Now I'm doing Garden Geckos. They're shorthanded because you can pull things over that you've previously created without having to rebuild it. GameFound, Backer Kit, the Pledge Manager through Kickstarter, they all have you go through this process of recreating things when you're like, they're starting to kind of make it a little bit easier to port things over. But you set yourself up as a company profile, and then your different campaigns you port over are so easy. Like I've got my entire catalog of SKUs now in the system. in the Hive system. So now for a campaign, if I want to add a, say, Nutty Squirrels, I've got inventory for Nutty Squirrels. I can just go into Nutty Squirrels and say, hit the plus sign and say, add this to the Garden Geckos Pledge Manager campaign in the Pledge Manager. It automatically ports it over. Then I can open that up and I can just say, oof, I only have inventory in Canada of Nutty Squirrels. Exclude the USA or only make it available in Canada. And I can just choose that and boom. Like that's like 2 seconds. I've created an add-on and I've got it set specific, country specific, so that where the inventory is located, only the people in that country are going to see that particular add-on. It's brilliant the way he built this. I can't talk highly enough about this Pledge Manager. It is so good. They have tabletop analytics. So if you join them under the pro rate, so again, the link I'll provide, you then also get access to tabletop analytics. So the one thing I did in this campaign is tabletop analytics let you pull in any campaign, whether it be GameFound, Kickstarter, and you can see the metrics of those campaigns, how those campaigns go by day, how many backers came in, how many comments, and so forth. And you can run comparisons. So you can pull in multiple campaigns and it'll overlap the different line charts, so you can line graphs, so you can see kind of how those campaigns compare. I did this on Garden Geckos. So I pulled in the first Garden Geckos campaign. I'm getting excited, I can tell. I put because I geek out on the data stuff. I pulled in the Garden Geckos campaign, and then I pulled in my newest campaign, and I could plot and chart and see graphically how this campaign was comparing versus the prior campaign. Again, allowing me to better predict where are going to be the spots where there were going to be lulls, and how is this thing going to end? Like where we're gonna end. And I was able to predict, like just by day 3, I knew this is going to be somewhere between 30 and 35,000 was what the math was showing based on kind of charting that. So quite accurate. It's quite accurate. It's really, really good. So again, Hive is great there. Oh, and then the last thing they do is they also do consolidation in terms of shipments. So because they have so many games and they're at retail, they're sending a container to the States, well, quite frankly, all around the world, even to Essen. They can help you get with Essen, getting your games right to your booth, quite frankly, and navigate all the brokerage and all that. But for the States, they've got a container coming in almost once a month. And we just did this on Cities of Venus Survivors. So we had, again, those people that did the bundle, and they were going to get the first game. There was a short window where the tariff dropped down to 20%. So I was talking to the owner at Hive, and he's like, hey, like, we got containers coming. Do you have anything you want to put on there? Because we're going to get in through this window. And I said, yeah. And I go, but they're over at Sky Game. Sky Game, no problem. We pick up games there all the time. Picked up at my factory, put it on the container, and they got all the way to bridge distribution in the States. And my cost on that was a fraction of that container. So normally when you're doing your own freight forwarding and your own customs brokers, the custom brokers will charge, there's a certain flat fee they kind of charge per company that's bringing products into the States, right? And booking the container and so forth. Where Hive is very clever is they bring everything in under Hive, and then they take that one fee and they break it up amongst all the people that are on that container proportionately. So you're paying a small portion of what you normally pay if you're doing it. They're consolidating that freight. Very, very smart, very, very good company. And they're constantly updating their platform, which is just awesome. So again, I cannot speak highly enough about Hive. They're fantastic. Check them out if you have a campaign of your own. Again, I'll put a link. I'm definitely in the show notes of this YouTube video. They'll get you a discount so you can go and check them out yourself. They're awesome. So that's kind of the overview of the key learnings. I know that was a fire hose dump, but it's always important for me on the campaign day when we close to get as many of my learnings out there as I possibly can so I don't forget and so I have access to them later on. But there's a lot of cool stuff that we did this time. There's one more thing I want to talk about in terms of on the marketing side. And again, I can't say this is enough, is that for me, I don't pay for preview videos. I take that money, I put into a small production run, and I just give games to whoever wants to review one. And I always make sure I have enough to cover off somebody, whether they have 1,000 followers or they've got 20,000 followers. It doesn't matter to me. I just want as many content creators out there as possible to try the game, because the perception that creates is that you're everywhere, right? When you start seeing, wait a second, I just saw this person do it. Now this person's doing the same. Now this person's doing the same game. Well, the cost to do that is so much more efficient to just go make a small run and just get and pay the shipping cost to ship it to whoever wants one versus paying for reviews. You're going to get what you get. So, knock on wood, we did really well with Garden Geckos. There's not one negative review. I've had prior campaigns where there's a handful of people that didn't love the game. That's fine. There's more than enough content to draw from that you don't have to use the ones that didn't love the game, use the ones that do. And so that's something that I'm going to continue doing. Is very important. And again, I highly recommend this for anybody out there that is doing a campaign of their own and you're trying to think, do I go and spend, there's a such and such a content creator and they've got maybe an audience of like 40, 50,000. I'm going to spend a couple grand to, and you're literally talking a couple grand to get them to do a preview video. I've done that. I've had a campaign where I took 3 creators who each had about 20,000 followers, but the number of views on that video wasn't high. It gave me the videos. It's important to have video to actually put on your campaign page so people when they're skimming can see that some reputable people have actually reviewed your game. But I'm getting that in spades by just offering it out to anybody that wants a game. I also think that the influencer model has changed, where I think a lot of influencers now are just looking for content, right? So it's less about trying to get paid to do the preview and more about, I just need good content because they have a large enough audience that they've monetized through YouTube, through TikTok, or whoever, that they're getting money there. So I think you're better off to do that. And then for me, I like to have a combination of written reviews, people doing Instagram photos. And I see on my campaign pages now, I also feature, here's some content creator images, and I'll put them in my e-blast out there. Always watermark, hey, this is from so-and-so that did this picture. It looks great. Link it back and let them get some exposure from that. YouTube videos and things like that. So you want to have it across different platforms. Still don't love TikTok. Quite frankly, I find TikTok is still instant gratification. So if you have a game that you're selling right now on Amazon, TikTok is great. And I've had a lot of success there. But TikTok to drive pledges, I still haven't seen that have any meaningful benefit yet. Okay. The last thing I want to say, and this I've saved for the end because this was an aha moment when creating my page that I'm going to use forever. And I think that hopefully a lot of you will use this forever. As you know, I like to do what's called bootstrapping. I try to create as much as I can for as little as possible. So for instance, when I create videos, for me, since I'm creating actual games to give to reviewers, guess what? I always have a physical copy of the game that I can then take photos of and do a video of. So all of my videos on my campaign pages is always a table shot of me panning over and showing the game. Maybe I'll find some cute B-roll of an animal or gecko or whatever. Maybe it's just me at the front of the video saying, hey, this is James from Tin Robot Games, and then it goes into the table shot and it's my voiceover over. I've had success with that. All you need is your iPhone or anything with a video camera. Stock music tracks. I always go with storyblocks.com because you can get stock audio tracks off of there, like music tracks and so forth, and then table shots in my own living room. That's how I do my video. I don't spend thousands of dollars on video. It costs nothing. It's just my original production run. In addition to that, what I've been doing is there's in Kickstarter, I'll tell you this too, is that you need to have GIFs on your, I call them GIFs, other people call them GIFs. I'm going to say GIFs. Images that move, right, on your campaign page. Statistically, they've shown that you have a higher incidence of pledges if your page contains a video and has a number of GIFs on it. So, motion images, animated images. Well, how do you create those? Well, a lot of people that are paying for videos are also having to pay someone to go and create these for them, right? Because they're not easy. I've struggled with this in the past myself, and I've had to use some pretty convoluted ways to create these in Photoshop and things like that. And then I stumbled upon something on this campaign. And that, my friends, is CapCut. I don't know if this feature's been there forever and I'm just now figuring it out, but this is a game changer. So CapCut, which is free, I have the app on my computer, so I download CapCut for my desktop. I can put so I do table shot of doing whatever action I want to do, flipping a tile or whatever that is. You can then drag and drop that video image into CapCut, trim it to however you want, scrape the audio out so there's no audio, and you can export it as a GIF. And now you've got your GIFs that you can put onto your campaign page. You can create overlays, right? Because CapCut, you can, if I want to have a nice graphical overlay and have it look kind of, stylized and fancy, not just be just a square image, you can do that overlay over top of that that video in CapCut. You can do layers in CapCut and hit it, export it into a GIF. Like, I don't know if this is just a recent thing, but mind blown the amount of time I've spent in the past, and in some cases, some people have had to spend a lot of money to create these, and you can create these in seconds using CapCut. Holy crap! Mind blown. So if the file size is too large, there's online software you can find. Just type in online GIF compression, things like that, and you can there's sites allow you to upload a GIF and it'll compress it down, make it even smaller, and then you re-download it. But guys, I say that for the last. You might not be blown away. I'm freaking blown away by that. Like, the amount of this type of video editing and graphics and stuff like that I do all myself. And I've just come across that. It is a game changer. I am so excited. So that's it, my friends. That's the Garden Geckos. Thank you so much for all those who backed this campaign for the expansion. I absolutely love this game. It is one of our highest rated games on Board Game Geek. And Tom Vassell still's not a fan. Still not a fan. He found it boring, but you know what, Tom? There's enough people out there that absolutely love the game and came back for some more. So I am so appreciative of everyone out there, all your support. If you are a creator, game creator, you're working on a Kickstarter campaign yourself. If you have a campaign up and coming, we've got a podcast, Board Game Binge Podcast. Let's talk. Maybe we can get you on the podcast, do an episode while your campaign is live. We're always looking for fun, awesome guests to tell their story. Or if you're just looking for some advice, I'm a big fan of paying it forward. And so reach out to me through messaging here or through the tinrobotgames.com website or boardgamebinge.com website. And let's talk. I'd love to hop on a video call and help you figure some of this stuff out. Again, I've done now my 9th campaign. And the more of these you do, it's a culmination of learning. And, I've learned from a lot of the greats out there, just talking to them after some of the podcast episodes. So I'm more than happy to pay that forward. And I'd love to hear your story and hear what you're working on. So again, my friends, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Cheers.